It's one of the most intricate criminal cases of all time, yet very little remember when the financial conspiracy came to light. For 12 years, Jerome Jacobson stole millions from McDonald's. He sucked in strangers to aid in his greedy scheme, many of whom had no idea what was actually happening. Jacobson did this through McDonald's Monopoly promotional game. They sent out 50 million prize-winning labels, yet the top prizes were already safely in Jacobson's possession. All he had to do was wait until he could sell the prize to a money-hungry soul. McDonald's is one of the most successful fast food chains in the world. Across the globe, the powerhouse franchise has over 37,000 restaurants. In 2017, McDonald's had an annual revenue of $37 billion. For comparison, in the same year, Burger King brought in almost $10 billion. McDonald's is the clear top dog in the fast food world. However, they're always looking to increase their sales just a bit more. Previously, they've done this by adding in the Happy Meal product. This scheme was aimed at children. It comes with a toy to entice kids to purchase the meal deal over and over and collect them all, just like Pokemon. Yet, for the adults, there's a different game. One that's compared to a type of gambling. Yes, Monopoly. The board game franchise joined forces with McDonald's to promote their adult-aimed game. Real prizes such as cars, holidays, and cash are given out. All a person has to do to take part is purchase McDonald's products. Let's take a gander at the Monopoly game that happens every year. Monopoly labels are placed on the food containers. You can also write a letter to McDonald's to request the labels. How it works is similar to the board game. Collect pieces of locations that match on the board to win a prize. Depending on the matches made, the prize quality will vary. You can even print off a board from their website. Yet to match all the pieces, McDonald's will make one of the label places extremely rare. One of the matched pieces will have a rarity of 1 in 150 million. However, there are also instant win labels. These aren't related to the Monopoly board. Instead, you just win a prize if you find one. Mostly you win free food, yet getting a life-changing prize is tricky. For the prize of $1 million, the odds are 1 in 250 million. The game is very much stacked against the players. Back in the early days of the game, McDonald's printed off 500 million labels. When laid out next to each other, it's enough to stretch from New York to Sydney, Australia. The marketing company behind the game was Los Angeles-based Simon Marketing. The printing of the labels was the responsibility of the Georgia company Dittler Brothers. Their other responsibilities included printing the U.S. mail stamps and lottery scratch cards. The man that supervised the McDonald's Monopoly printing was Jerome Jacobson. He was the chief of security at Simon Marketing. Every day the game was active, he would oversee the printing process by the supercomputer at 5 a.m. He would watch the technicians as they created the instant win labels. Jacobson even helped establish watermarks to discourage counterfeiters. He picked out the winning labels and locked them in a high-security vault. When it was time to move the highly valued pieces, Jacobson would seal them in an envelope with a tamper-proof sticker. He also invented a vest just for the task. He would pop the important envelope into a hidden compartment in the vest. He would then go all over the U.S. to McDonald's packaging factories to transport the life-changing labels. He seemed like the perfect responsible employee. Jacobson was originally from the U.S. Marines. However, due to high arches, he was discharged during basic training. From there, he found himself in the police force. 1 year into his career, he suffered an injury. After further complications from the injury that delayed his return to the force, the Florida Police Department just let him go. He would later find a role in private security for Dittler Brothers. He was soon overseeing production with Dittler Brothers' top client, Simon Marketing. Impressed with his work, Simon Marketing would poach Jacobson and offer him the role of head of security. It didn't take long for Jacobson to let the newfound power take over, though. He would micromanage employees by writing them up for petty reasons. Jacobson was now making $70,000 per year, 6 times as much as he was making for the police. He also had an expense account that he took full advantage of. He would fly first class on trips to factories and took advantage of the onboard extras. After every time he visited the factories, he would arrive at steakhouses and order everything off the menu. Greed was gripping Jacobson even more. In 1989, Jacobson's descent into fraud began. During a family gathering, he passed his stepbrother, Marvin Braun, a game piece worth a staggering $25,000. Jacobson would later say he wasn't sure why he did this, but suspected that he did it in order to show off. Later on, Jacobson handed Braun 3 more pieces, one of which included a $1 million prize. Yet Braun didn't need the money. He had second thoughts and flushed away the high-valued label in the toilet. Once word got out about Jacobson's position at Simon Marketing, a butcher, Jacobson's friend from Atlanta, got in touch with him. He wanted to win a Monopoly prize. Jacobson agreed to help him out, but for a price. However, the butcher had to get someone else to claim the prize. It'd be too suspicious if a friend of Jacobson won a big sum. Eventually, the prize for $10,000 was handed over. Jacobson received $2,000 for his troubles. Later on, the butcher wanted a bigger prize of $200,000. Jacobson agreed, but for a $45,000 cut. However, once the butcher got the ticket, he cheated the cheater. He gave Jacobson $4,000 instead. He then celebrated his win on a McDonald's advertisement, an act which angered Jacobson. One of the main reasons that Jacobson remained undetected for so long was due to his co-conspirators. He chose them at random. No one that could easily be linked back to him. One of these meetings happened in Atlanta's airport in 1995. Gennaro Colombo sat next to Jacobson. Soon, the two chatted. Colombo claimed to be involved in New York's Colombo crime family. The two soon got to work. Jacobson handed Colombo a label that won a Dodge Viper. He would even be in a McDonald's advertisement due to the win. Colombo worked as a middleman of sorts. Jacobson would hand over the labels, and then he'd sell them and pass the percentage of the money back to Jacobson. The receivers of the prize would need to drive across the country to claim it, though, even pretending they live in new areas, all to avoid any suspicion. However, in 1998, Colombo was involved in a lethal car accident and was unable to continue the scheme, so Jacobson looked for a new partner. He found Don Hart on a cruise ship they were both on. Hart had a lot of connections around the country. He was interested in Jacobson's proposal, but he was honest. Yet still, he agreed to try Jacobson's scheme. After Hart's associate redeemed a $200,000 label from Jacobson, Hart got cold feet. He couldn't be involved in a situation such as this, but he did introduce Jacobson to some friends that might be able to help. All this time, no one caught on to Jacobson's scheme. Mostly it was due to luck and a touch of care, but in 2000, the FBI received an anonymous tip. The tip claimed that Uncle Jerry had been rigging the McDonald's Monopoly game. Colombo's wife, Robin Colombo, believes this tip came from her former husband's family. Robin had tried to keep her son out of her father's criminal family clutches, and on top of that, Robin believed the family wanted revenge for her husband's untimely end. They blamed her for the accident. As a result, Robin believed they wanted her locked up and punished. Once the FBI was informed, Richard Dent took on the case. He examined the past big winners of the game. With the help from McDonald's spokesperson Amy Murray, they realized the winners were lying about the areas that they lived in. With that, Operation Final Answer was created. Inspired by Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, 25 FBI agents across the U.S. tracked 20,000 phone numbers and recorded 235 cassette tapes of telephone conversations. So in the year 2000, Jacobson had brought Dwight Baker onto the scheme. Baker was suffering from financial issues and was glad to be the new middleman. Baker used a fake story to sell a $1 million ticket to his former foster child, George Chandler. Baker gave instructions for Chandler not to participate in any McDonald's promotion. However, Chandler did. The video of the incident alerted the FBI. Shortly after, Baker was given another $1 million label, which he sold to Ronnie Huey. Baker also sold a $500,000 label to his sister-in-law, Brenda Phoenix. Baker told them how to set up their fake lives and how to collect the prizes. When Huey won, McDonald's informed the FBI. The FBI realized Huey didn't live in Tennessee, but in South Carolina, just miles from George Chandler. So the FBI looked into Phoenix's recent win too. They realized that she actually lived in South Carolina as well. In the middle of these three winning areas was Jacobson. In 2001, the FBI needed one final game to gather enough evidence on Jacobson. McDonald's were reluctant as their image would be damaged further, but they eventually agreed. 57 million game boards were distributed to issues of Sports Illustrated, People, and Time magazines. However, the biggest prize labels were already in Jacobson's possession. He gave one to Andrew Glom, a convicted drug trafficker that worked with him, and the other labels went to Baker. The FBI then listened from wiretaps on the suspects' phones as the men schemed. They also began surveilling the group of fraudsters. Soon they had enough evidence to finally catch the infamous criminals. So they set up a McDonald's promotional interview with Glom's $1 million winner, Michael Hoover. Only it was actually FBI agents undercover as the filming crew. By the end of August, the FBI had made a number of arrests of Jacobson's associates. They also arrested the mastermind himself, Jerome Jacobson. He hoped his kind act of 1995, when he donated a $1 million prize to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, would work in his favor. However, altogether, he'd stolen $24 million. The arrest made national news. Simon Marketing didn't understand how the man they trusted could do this to them, yet it got worse when McDonald's dropped them as a client. The company folded shortly after. Jacobson was looking at 9 charges, each with a 5-year stretch in prison. However, due to a signed confession and pleading guilty, Jacobson was sentenced to only 15. 50 defendants were convicted altogether. Many of Jacobson's main group received a sentence of at least a year in prison too. However, the court case happened on the 10th of September 2001, one day before the harrowing attacks of 9/11, oddly enough. As such, there was little media attention on this multi-million-dollar fraud case. Many of the winners were spared prison time, but they had to pay back their winnings at $50 a month.